Why would I choose to play Mundo over Zach? Well, Mundo is just Mr. Run at you and never die guy while being immune to CC. I think he's like lower elo skewed. He's not as strong for the better players, but I don't know. He's a chill guy. I don't have a lot of thoughts on Mundo aside from like, I know a lot of people are like, he's too reliant on healing and he can reduce his grievous wounds. My thought is a bit different. I'm like, what if he just healed even more? Like, I don't know. I miss the days that Mundo could hit ult and then like have 2 health bars or 3 health bars. And so if there's anything I would say about Mundo, it'd be like, what if his ult healed even more? But I don't know. He's kind of a character that tends to be balanced more around lower MMRs. He's not as viable at higher MMRs because he's like, you know, pretty straight, basic and straightforward. But I don't know. I think he does a decent job of being like a pretty special juggernaut. He's kind of like, I just walk at you and run at you and try to never die and do lots of damage. You know, is he even a perfect spot? I'm not sure. But I think he's got his place in the game given his just insane regeneration and walk at you fantasy. What about full AP WMAX Kaisa? We've nerfed that build quite a bit because there's a specific type of play pattern we tend not to be okay with in the game, and that is repeated shelling from off your screen with very high damage spell. So this is Old Nidalee, this is AP Kaisa, this is AP Zeri, this is AP Kog'Maw at times. Kog'Maw's not as extreme here because he actually has to hit you multiple times, whereas like Zeri, Kaisa, Nidalee, like one hit was very, very, very strong. And so we tend to be like, we're not necessarily okay with that pattern of I stand very, very far away off your screen and just repeatedly try to hit you with these skill shots, and if I hit 1 or 2 of them, like, you lose. We don't tend to support that. And I want to note that like there's a big difference between that and like what Xerath or Ziggs or Mel or even Zoe do. Whereas Zoe, yes, she has like these like off-screen poke plays she does, but they're actually like, she also has to get close to you to do them, right? Like at the end of the day, Zoe has to like use her like R combo and show up near you to pop you with a spell, right? So it's not that like Zoe can't pop you from off screen, but actually she's not staying off screen the entire time when she's doing it. A lot of the time she is like moving in closer a lot of the time to like get these big plays. And then a character like Xerath or Ziggs or Mel, they're on your screen. They're long range, but there's a big difference between like long range and you can see them and long range and they're actually like 2 screens away. So that's a big difference there. So I would say that AP Kaisa, AP Zeri, they're really fun characters. Like, I do think that the playing as experience on them is quite enjoyable. But we feel that like that's in terms of playing against, that's one of the things that we think is like perhaps less okay for the game. Yeah. Bring back Prowler's Call. Love it. I do miss the old like when you dash or stealth, do bonus damage on an assassin item. I think that's like a really cool output actually. And I know like there's like that sword that we have that like kind of does that. It's like dashing charges up an energize attack or something. But I think it's a bit different than like just whenever you dash, your next attack gets empowered. Whenever you stealth, your next attack gets empowered. I think those are pretty cool. If you're talking about the Prowler's Claw that gave you a targeted dash, that was not as cool, Deathmark. I don't think we should bring that back. I think it's like fairly incorrect to give assassins a targeted dash. That's pretty off. But the version that says when you dash your stealth, do a thing. When you dash your stealth, like get an empowered attack, I think was pretty sweet and worked like really, really well in a lot of assassins. I kind of miss it personally. Felt like it like really went into like characters like Kha'Zix and Rengar and stuff. Like a lot of cool stuff going on there. Yeah. I'm new to the game, and I find abilities looking different with different skins so frustrating. Why is it like that we're almost every other hero-based game doesn't change abilities with skins? So I'm not sure if it's true to say every other hero-based game doesn't change abilities with skins. I feel like a number of them do. Maybe I'm crazy. That said, we change abilities with skins because skins are a really, really important part of League of Legends, it turns out. And the reason for this, there's two things to note about skins that are important. One is they literally keep the lights on. That's important. League of Legends is a free-to-play game. The reason it is free-to-play is because we sell skins. And so it is important that skins look cool and are, fun to have. Also, skins are just generally a high fantasy thing that people like. So it's like, it's not just like, hey, we're selling skins, but also it's like, it turns out that as a player, if a Jinx skin comes out and it does cool things, you as a player, literally, if you main Jinx, like, you're likely to be happier, right? Like, if you're a Lux player and you get a new Lux skin and it has, like, pretty pink VFX, like, that legitimately makes a lot of Lux players happy. They're like, yay, my character, this is a cool skin. And so it's not just about, like, selling skins, but also about, like, skins deliver value to players and make them happy about their character. Now, of course, the thing then you have to consider then is, like, well, make sure skins aren't pay to win. And so we do a lot in terms of, like, how we do VFX to ideally make it so that even if you buy a skin and the VFX are different, it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, the skin is, like, impossible to read or, like, interpreted as something else, where, like, the character looks like they're a completely different character, or the spell looks like just like it does something it doesn't do, things like that. And so we do a lot when we make skins to, like, really make sure that those changes, like the changes to VFX, are still recognizable as the same character and the same spells and things like that. Now, of course, that's going to be harder for a new player because, the game is already overwhelming as it is. Things like this is like that can help here. Things like global shape language. So this is a thing where it's like a lot of our, say, root spells look very similar. Like when you shoot a root with that's a skill shot, a lot of those spells in terms of how they travel and how they're visualized look somewhat similar. And then once you're rooted, our language for being rooted tends to be like you're kind of in this, like, vertical cage. And, like, we use consistent language like that in a lot of places to, like, try to make that, like, burden of understanding a lot lower. Now, all that said, we don't always get it perfect. Like, we've definitely released skins in the past that, might be harder to read or might look weird and things like that. And so we try to, like, keep tabs on that and make sure that doesn't happen. And when it does, like, make sure we get, like, the right updates. Definitely not a perfect science, but we generally, it's like, hey, skins are important. They're high valuable. They keep the game, like, running, and they're generally high value for the players who get them. Like, players tend to like skins. And then, so we want to make them cool, but we're also, very, very cognizant of the fact that, like, we don't want them to be pay to win. We, like, are very vigilant about clarity and things like these. And again, we don't always get it perfect, though. We don't always get it exact. There's definitely some skins we've made that aren't as clear as they probably could be.